If you're new to Lightroom, I'd like to show you a workflow for creating a simple catalog so we can keep track of all of our images. To run an optimum Lightroom workflow, I would recommend the following. Use a dual or quad-core computer processor. An i5 is good, but an i7 is better. Okay, now you should be running the current or a previous operating system, whether it be on Windows or Mac, in order to be running the latest Lightroom versions. Now, although Adobe recommend that you need a minimum of 2 GB of RAM, they also recommend that 8 is ideal. Now, I would run with 8 or 16 if at all possible. If you're running with 4, then you are going to need a little bit of patience while Lightroom processes some of your requirements. Okay, now you don't need too much hard drive space in order to run a catalog, but if you're intending to import all of the images to your computer's hard drive, especially if you're shooting in the raw file format, then I'd clear out as much as 100 GB worth of free space before starting a Lightroom catalog. Okay, now you're going to need a computer with a USB 3 or Thunderbolt I/O. That's basically in-out. That's the way of getting information in and off the computer. Now, as well as your computer, it's ideal to have a couple of USB 3 or Thunderbolt drives. You might even look at something like an mSATA drive, solid state drive, for optimum speed of transferring information to your external drives. And this is basically to run a backup of all of the files that you're working with your catalog, and also to export working catalogs that we can take off-site. Using somebody else's version of Lightroom, we'll be able to open up our Lightroom catalog on maybe a computer of a friend's, or even at a college or university. Now, on this Macintosh, I actually have the application icon in the dock here. You can just go to your applications folder and click directly onto the application icon. If you hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, this is going to give you access to any previous catalogs that you've been working with. I'm going to come down to the Create a New Catalog, and typically I'll create a new catalog at the start of every year to work with. So I'm going to click on the Create a New Catalog button there. This is going to give me an option to name the catalog and also where I want the catalog to be placed on my computer. Now I'm going to give this a date name, so 2015 catalog, and this is going to be stored in the Pictures folder. So we'll just hit the Create button there, and Lightroom will open with a new catalog. We won't be able to see any images yet because we do have to import images before we can work with them. Now again, if you are new to Lightroom, you can come up to the Help menu here and choose Library Module Tips. This will give you a quick tour of some of the features, how we can sync a collection with Lightroom Mobile, and we can just click on the Next tab, the Import button, and the Folders button. This is where the images will be imported into. Collections, where we can group favorite images together to create a collection. This filter bar allows us to find images. It's almost like Googling for an image. So long as the images have got keywords or metadata that we're looking for, we can quickly find images even after we've long forgotten where those images live on the computer or even an external drive. And then we have the right panel for making quick image adjustments and controlling some of the work with the metadata of the images. The metadata is basically information that is embedded into the image either by the camera or some things that we can add to help us find those images. Okay, I'm just going to close that panel down now. And I'm going to first look at some of the preferences. So I'm going to come up to the Lightroom menu here, and we can see the preferences. Now if you're working with a PC, you'll actually be accessing these from your Edit menu. We'll just click on the preferences, and most of the preferences inside of Lightroom are pretty good to go, except for one feature that if you are new to Lightroom, I would recommend that you make this change, and that is come to the external editing panel here. Check the file format is set to TIFF. This is when we're working outside of Lightroom, and drop the color space from Pro Photo to sRGB until you understand a little bit more about color management. And you could also drop the bit depth from 16 bits to 8 bits per channel. And then we're pretty much to go on the preferences. Now these preferences will apply to all catalogs that we create. Now I can also come up and look at the individual preferences for just this catalog. So I'll just click on the catalog settings here, and we can actually back up the catalog. This doesn't actually back up the images, it just backs up the data about the images. Now typically the default is once a week, but I actually prefer when to back up. If I've had a very busy day in Lightroom, I'd like to back up at the end of the session. So I'm just going to change that to every time Lightroom exits. Now I can always skip the backup process if I'm in a hurry to move on, but this does give me the choice to back up every time. Now let's take a look at also the file handling section here. Now I'm working on a MacBook Air and it has a screen resolution of 1440 pixels, but if you're working maybe with a Retina display on say a MacBook Pro or a large desktop monitor, maybe a 24 or 27 inch monitor, you're probably going to want to increase that resolution to the 2880 pixels. When Lightroom is building previews, it will build sharper previews for this monitor, and you won't have to wait for the preview to build. Okay, now if we zoom into an image, these zoomed images will be cached or stored in Lightroom's memory, but because this is a memory intensive operation, these will be discarded after 30 days, and this is a pretty good setting, okay, to stick with there. Okay, so now we're pretty much ready to go. If you don't want to actually see this top bar on this Mac interface, you can just hold down the Shift key and press the F key, and that will hide that top bar. We could also hide the menus from view by just pressing Shift F one more time. The menus are still accessible, we just need to move our mouse cursor up to the top of the screen in order to access them, like so. Okay, now we're going to now import some images. Okay, so I can just insert a memory card, and usually what will happen is the Lightroom will detect the memory card. This is a preference we can add if it's not already selected in the preferences panel there. Okay, now on this memory card, as you can see, it's from an A6000 camera. I've actually renamed the memory card to come up with the name, and I've also got the eject after import selected there. So after we've finished importing the images, the memory card will automatically be ejected from the drive or connection that we've got going there. Now we'll be moving from the right hand side. This is where the images are coming from, and then this is how we handle the images. When we're working with JPEGs from a memory card, you'll only be dealing with this one option here, which is copy, so there's no real choices to be made there. And as we move over to the right hand side, this is where the images will be stored and can be accessed then from the catalog. Now what I would typically work with is choose down to the destination panel here, and instead of just putting the images directly into the pictures folder, I'm actually going to collate them or group them with the actual catalog that I've created. So I'm just going to click on that 2015 icon here. Now the images that are connected or related to this catalog will be stored with the catalog files themselves. Okay, and I'm going to put this, because this will become a very busy folder after hundreds of imports, I'm actually going to tidy that folder up just by putting into subfolder, and then I'm going to give this a name and call it images. Okay, now you can see that the dated folder is going to go inside of the images folder. Now I am organizing by date, and I'm choosing this option here, which is just the year first, then the month, and then the day. Okay, so that is the format that I'm going to recommend that you use as a beginner for Lightroom. Okay, now let's take a look at the file handling. We'll come up to the top panel here. Now you'll notice that when I click on one panel and then click on another panel, you'll see the previous panel closes. This is a feature called solo mode. If you right click, you can actually select solo mode here, so we're not looking at all panels open, and this would require us to then scroll on the right hand side, which I prefer not to do. Okay, so again, up to file handling, we're going to leave the build previews at the standard. That is the 1440 pixels I left in the catalog preferences. I recommend that you build smart previews. This is a great feature that came in with Lightroom recently that allows you to carry on editing files even when the files are archived offline on an external drive. A great feature. It will add 1 or 2 megabytes to your catalog for every image, but it's definitely a feature worth having. And because I always recommend always keeping a backup of all of your image files, I would also select this option, make a second copy too. And I would click on this little link, and this allows you to choose a drive. Now I would personally buy a USB 3 drive and treat that as just your backups. Okay, so I'm going to select the backups here and hit choose. Okay, now as well as creating copies of these files on my hard drive, a second copy of the files will automatically be generated onto this backup drive, so I know my images will always be safe. Let's come down to file renaming. Now my renaming template, you see I've got rename files checked there. Now I'm happy with the number of the files. This seems a logical way to treat the naming of the files, but I'm also choosing custom name as well as keeping the original file number there. What happens if you're using more than one camera, you've got several different cameras, eventually you'll come into a situation where you have the same number being applied to 2 separate images, and this is a little bit confusing, not only to me but also to a database. And so I'm just going to put the name of the camera. You might choose a different custom text, but I'm going to just choose the name of the camera here, which is the A6000, which is a Sony mirrorless camera. Apply during import. Now I'm going to apply my metadata, my template here, which is my copyright, so that when I'm pushing images to the social media like Flickr or Google+, there's no doubt about who these images belong to. Now if you don't have one of these templates yet, just click on New. Okay, this will open the panel. You'll call this your copyright template, and just come down to this section. Obviously you see there's lots of sections here, but this is the most important one, the IPTC copyright. And what I'm going to do is copyright that to myself, and I'll just tick on copyrighted here, all rights reserved. And you can put the year as well if you like there, and also a contact, just in case somebody wants to pay me for my image. I'll just put my website details in there as well. Okay, and I can then hit create, and you can see now we can choose to select that copyright on import. Now this is definitely a step that we don't need to skip here. Okay, we need to be able to find these images in a year's time, because what we're looking for is what we remember. We don't know specifically where they're stored or what date we captured them, but we will remember that this is, or these are, pictures of my daughter Tegan. They were captured at home, and it was a portrait studio setting here. Okay, so I would try and think about 3 keywords that would apply to all of the images on this memory card that you've been working with here. Okay, the destination we've already sorted, so we're ready now just to hit import. Now what is happening is the images are being brought into Lightroom. I'll just increase the size of the thumbnails. You'll see that there's two operations in progress. It's building the full screen previews, it's also building the smart previews, and it's also created backups on my external drive. Okay, and you'll see in the folders section here is we have that dated folder with the 7 images in there. Okay, let's just carry on importing images to build a catalog, and there'll be a few differences here that we'll encounter with that will be interesting. Okay, instead of going to the memory card, which you can actually see has been injected as we requested, I'm just going to come up to my pictures folder and take images that are already on my hard drive. Okay, so I'll come to my pictures folder and I'll come to this little import folder here. Okay, now you'll see these images are actually grayed out, and that is because in the file handling here I've got don't import suspected duplicates, and Lightroom knows that these images are already in the catalog, so it won't try to re-import those again. Okay, but any new images we are being invited to import those. Let's just come down to the individual folders here. Okay, this is a shoot that was taken some time ago. Now I've been working with the RAW file format. This is Sony's RAW file format, ARW, Alpha RAW. And instead of just copying these, I'm going to choose now copy as DNG. This will convert the proprietary RAW file format of the camera into Adobe's RAW file format. Now there are several advantages to this, but probably the most important one is they actually load faster when we're working with them in a Lightroom catalog. And so this is reason enough to convert into Adobe's RAW file format. It's a lossless conversion, so we don't lose any of the image quality. And typically most Canon and Nikon users will find that the RAW file in the DNG file format is slightly smaller than the proprietary RAW file format, which means simply that you can get more on an external drive. Okay, so the file handling is the same. File renaming will change because this is no longer an A6000 camera, it is the A99 camera. Let's just remove that A6000 there. It's the DSLT camera, the A99, and we're going to apply different keywords. This is Tara Warra, which is a winery. You'll see that I put a comma after each keyword, and it's also a gallery, and it's in the Yarra Valley. Okay, that should be enough to help me find that. It's always worth just double checking that you've got your spelling right, and I've made a little bit of a mistake there, Tarawara, so we'll just correct that up before moving on. Destination, it's going back into the images folder. It'll choose the last settings that we've been using. Okay, and now we're ready to import these images. There's going to be a little bit more work to do with these raw files because there's a conversion process as well as the backup. And you'll notice this little screen has popped up because this camera has a GPS device inside the camera. Now you'll encounter this with mobile phones as well that know where they are on the planet, and I would encourage you to click Enable at this point and just click OK again. Now the beauty of enabling that GPS data is that if we have an image and we're looking in the map module, that image will actually be placed within a specific location where they were captured. Okay, and as you can see, there are my images that I've taken at this specific location in the Yarra Valley. A very useful feature. You can actually use this even if your camera doesn't have a GPS device. You can just take one image with your mobile phone on location and then apply that GPS data to all of the images that you've taken with your interchangeable lens camera. Okay, let's carry on working with this. You can see the folders coming in there. Let's just go and import a couple more folders. Okay, we'll move down here and this is another portrait. Let's say that we don't want all of our images going into one folder called images. Let's say we want to create different subfolders in our Lightroom catalog. So instead of putting them into an images folder, I'll put them into a portraits folder. And you can see down here now inside my 2015 catalog we have a subfolder called images, and now I've created a new subfolder called portraits. File handling will be the same. File renaming, this was captured with the A6000 camera again, and applied during import, it's Tegan again, it's portrait. I'm no longer at home this time, I'm actually in Fitzroy Gardens here. Okay, and this will help me again find the images. Okay, so we're copying as DNG again, we're backing up to the external drive, we're creating those smart previews, and they're coming in to the catalog here. Okay, let's take a look at how this folder structure is working inside of Lightroom. If I was just to click on the top folder that we imported, and it's being organized by date, and this was an older shoot, I can just hit or right click and choose Show Parent Folder. Okay, and I can also right click on this one, this was the last import, and hit right click and hit Show Parent Folder. You can see now my subfolders, images and portraits, and I would definitely recommend that you show those parent folders. We could even go one step further and click on Show Parent Folder again, and we can actually see that that is in the 2015 catalog. Okay, so let's take a look at if we wanted to reorganize our images. It's important to remember with Lightroom not to use the operating system to reorganize our images. This is a catalog or a database, and it will only keep track of the images if we do all of the renaming, deleting, moving of images inside of Lightroom. Now this is, we've got another portrait shoot here, and I could actually click and drag that down into my portraits folder. Now that operation that we've just done in Lightroom is replicated in the computer's operating system. Let's just right click on this 2015 and hit Show in Finder. And you'll see that in my pictures folder, this is the folder we created for the catalog to sit in 2015. Here are all of the catalog files. These store the previews and smart previews and all of the metadata settings of the images. And here are the folders that we created on import: images and portraits, now with two subfolders. Now don't ever be tempted to open an image from here, move a folder. We must always use Lightroom for those operations, but it's reassuring just seeing that whatever we're doing in Lightroom is replicated in our operating system. Okay, let's again just go and import another folder of images. We'll make this the last but one. This was captured using a different camera again, so we're going to copy as DNG. We're coming up to the file handling, which is all the same. File renaming, this is an A7S, this is a full frame mirrorless camera from Sony, and apply during import, which is the keywords, which is Hamilton Island. Let's get the spelling right. And it's in Queensland, and again I'm having a real problem with my spelling today, and it's a holiday. Okay, so let's import these images. Again, it's going into the destination. We don't want them going into portraits, so I could just revert to that images folder to place these images in, and we'll click on the import, and again that work being carried out, conversion to DNG, back up to my external drive, and the creation of the smart previews here. Okay, so we've got these images coming in. Now these are you'll see that they're coming into multiple folders because these images, although they're on one card, they've actually been captured over different days, and so they're each going into their dated folder. Now let's say that I really would have preferred these to go into a subfolder called Landscapes. Now if we want to reorganize our work here, is I can just click on my Master 2015 folder, click on the little plus symbol here, and add a subfolder called Landscapes. Okay, and we'll hit Create. Okay, and if we've got any folders with landscapes in, I can just drag them into that folder, so we can quite quickly organize our work in here. And these are landscapes taken from an aircraft window, so we'll just push those into landscapes as well. Now if we want to find any of the images that we've been importing previously into Lightroom, this is a simple case of either clicking on the primary folder that we have here, where all of the images are living, or alternatively we can come over to the Catalog folder and just choose All Photographs. And this is where we come up to the Library filter. Okay, now if you can't actually see this library filter bar, you do need to be in grid view. This is the grid view rather than the loop view where you're looking at a single image. So we need to be in the grid view, and if this bar ever disappears, then you can access that from the main menus, or you could just press the / key on the keyboard, and this will hide or show that filter bar. Now if I just click text, this is where I can just write in something to help me find an image that I'm looking for. Now I'm going to be looking for a picture of my daughter Tegan, and as you can see, because we've keyworded both of these individual shoots here, Tegan appears. Now if I'm just looking for the images of Tegan that I typed in or captured in Fitzroy Garden, I haven't even finished typing the word Fitzroy and it's already isolated these down to a specific image. And let's say that this is the image I want to take a closer look at. I can just press the E key to enlarge that. That's the loop view. And you can see maybe this is the image that I want to work with. Now at the moment it's still listed as being in all photographs, which of course it is, but I'd perhaps like to look at the other images inside of that folder. So I can just right click and say go to folder in library, and this will isolate the specific folder where this image is living. Now if I want to look at the other images as well, I'll just press the G key or click on this little grid icon down here in the toolbar. Now if this toolbar ever disappears for whatever reason, then just press the T key and this will bring this toolbar back up. Okay, so there we have the image that I'm looking at. I'm leaning towards this as being one of my favorite images, so I'm just going to give that a 1-star rating. I also like the other image here. We can just also double click to zoom in as well, and I'm sort of leaning towards that as being another one of my favorites, so I'm just going to give that 1 star as well. Let's just go back into the group view here, and instead of finding the image now with Tegan and Fitzroy Gardens, let's just use an attribute and we can just look at the 1-star or greater images inside of this particular folder, and this will highlight the two images together. Now I think these images will need a little bit of an exposure bump. They're a little bit dark, so I'm just going to bump them up so they're some brighter. Okay, that's just a quick fix. We'll be looking at the develop module in the next movie here. Okay, so we'll also move on to the next image, and I think that could also do with that same exposure jump there. Maybe not quite so much this time, so I'll just back that off a little bit. Okay, so I'm liking the brighter look to these two images. Let's see if I've got any of the portraits that are in this folder. Now you'll see that there's no photo selected. It appears this folder is empty. Let's just go back to the grid view and realize that we're filtering Okay, and there are no images with 1 star in this folder, so we must remember to clear our filters in order to see the images in a particular folder or location. And again, I could cycle through these images in full screen view, or I can change the size of the thumbnails and just create a quite quickly clear idea that I really love this little cheeky smile on this particular image, and that's going to be one of my favorites as well. So I'm just going to give that a 1 star rating. You can just press the number 1 key if you don't want to click on these little stars here, and that will give me the rating. If I come to the portraits folder, that includes 2 subfolders now, and just hit the 1 star rating, we'll see that these 3 images are now sort of grouped together as being my favorite pics. Now, if I always want to group all of my favorite portraits together, and I don't want to have to go to different folders to find them, we actually do what's called create a collection. I'm not going to move this image into a different folder just because I want it to sit alongside an image that was captured on a different day. We actually leave the folders in their capture folders by date. Okay, so if we want to group these images together, if I move my mouse cursor up to these images, okay, we can actually put them into what's called a quick collection just by hitting the B key, and you'll see a little circle appear there. Okay, and the same, we can just click the B key again, and these add the images into what's called the quick collection, and one more B, and you'll see the quick collection now has 3 images in. Let's just select all of these images. I can just hold down the Shift key and select them. Okay, alternatively I can click on one and then hold down the Command key on a Mac or the Control key on a PC to select another image, or alternatively I can do Command A or Control A on a PC to select all of the images in my quick collection. And now I can click on that quick collection and the collections panel here, and choose Create Collection. Now if I want to include the selected photos, they're already selected, so I'm just going to give this a name, Portraits, and we'll click Create. And you'll see that now this quick collection, it hasn't actually copied the files, it's just basically copied aliases or thumbnails into this little portraits collection here now. And we can also do the same thing with a slightly different approach to creating a collection. If we haven't already selected folders and there's no photos in the quick collection, we can just create a collection. This time I'll call it landscapes, and we don't have any photos selected, so we're not given that as an option, but we'll just create a landscapes. Now we can start looking through, and again we must deselect that 1 star rating in order to see our images, and I can, if this is a particular favorite that I want to add to a collection, I can just drag that down to my landscapes. Okay. You can, if you would like just to carry on using that B key to add to your collections, you can right click on any collection and set it as a target collection. So if we come over and come over to more landscapes, or even some architecture shots that are sort of landscape driven, maybe we could just now select this one, hit the B key, and instead of going into the quick collection, now you'll see it's gone into the target collection. Okay, so this is the purpose of collections. It's a way of organizing groups of photographs together in one place that were captured on different shoots. Perhaps most of the editing work done inside of Lightroom is not actually done in the quick develop panel that we have here. It's actually done in the main develop module here. So if I was going to want to maybe do some more adventurous editing or image optimization, I would actually just either click on the develop module with this image selected, or hit the D key. and hitting the D key will take that image into the develop module. Now you can see that I have some information connected to this image up in this top left hand corner. You can access that information just by pressing the I key on your keyboard, and this will cycle through information off. It's the first tier level of information, which has a date and image size, and then we have a second tier information with shutter speed, aperture, ISO, and even the lens information connected with this image. Now most of the work is actually done in what's called the basic panel here. And I'll notice that we've got a little bit of a gap on the histogram here. The histogram is a graphical representation of the tonal values right from the blacks, the shadows, and the mid-tones, and the highlights, and the brightest tones. And we've got a little bit of a gap here, and we can actually use the full dynamic range of the histogram just by pushing that white slider, and you can see that histogram will move over and touch the white side there. I'm just going to lower the vibrance. The colors are getting a little bit too colorful for me, so I'll just move that back a little bit. And I'm also interested maybe seeing what this image would look like if I converted it to black and white. So I'm just going to click on the treatment at the top here. We have color or black and white. I'm just going to click on black and white there, and that's really quite nice black and white conversion. Okay, now let's just go back into grid view here. Now this is a non-destructive editing environment. Now Lightroom is keeping a track of all of the edits, but we're not actually doing pixel level editing. We're just changing the previews inside of Lightroom. If I was going to go and just go show in Finder, and we take a look at this image in our operating system, this Mac operating system has no knowledge of what Lightroom is doing. So if we were going to go into our operating system and then send this via email or upload it to Flickr or something, we wouldn't actually get that black and white conversion. We must wean ourselves off using the operating system, because we'll hit an endless sort of issues and problems by doing that. We must control all of our imaging needs from Lightroom. So if we wanted to open this in another application, we open it from Lightroom. If we want to export it or publish it to the social media, then we can do all of those services via Lightroom. We have an export button there. We could also publish this image to Facebook or Flickr. You can add other modules as well if you've got other social media. And that would be just a simple case of hitting the setup option there, and you would need to log in and authorize Facebook to accept images from Lightroom. I've already done that. You can create an album, and you can work out whether that album has any privacy or is public, and I'll choose the size of the images. If this is going to be a private one, I'm just going to use the optimum image size for Facebook, which is 2048 pixels. I'm going to have high quality there, and then I can save these as the settings. Now at any time I want to publish to Facebook, I'd simply drag that image into my publish, click on there, and simply hit the publish button, and that image will go directly to Facebook, and I can look at that via the link here and see that on Facebook. Okay, let's go back to my portraits collection here. Let's look at another way we can work with the catalogs here. Let's say that I want to go around to a friend's house, but I don't want to take my computer. I just want to take a catalog, or maybe just a small portion of the catalog, around to my friend's house who also has Lightroom. I could also do this operation if maybe I'm going to college and the college has computers with Lightroom on. I don't need to take my own laptop with me with my catalog. catalog, I can just take this catalog or even a small portion of the catalog on a thumb drive or a USB 3 drive. I do recommend USB 3 over USB 2 just because image files are quite large, and it'll speed up the operation at least 10 times by using a USB 3 drive. Okay, so let's just say I want to take these 3 images to another computer running Lightroom, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key and choose Export Catalog. Okay, now I'm going to take this onto an external drive that I have. This is a mini SATA. This is a very fast SSD drive, and so this will move over there in a flash. And let's say I'm going to my college, the Private Studies College, and we're going to export this as maybe assignment 1, or I could create a new folder here and call it assignment 1 and hit create, and then we will export the catalog, and I'm going to give this a name, maybe that's my portraits, and we're going to export the smart previews. Now we can take the master files. Adobe calls these the negative files. These are the master JPEGs or raw files. We can take those with us, but if we don't actually need to, the smart previews will allow our friends or our lecturers to see the before and after edits that we've been doing, so we can actually work with just the smart previews. Okay, so I'm just going to export this catalog. And as I said, that's gone over in a flash because of the speed of the drive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close this catalog. So we'll just quit Lightroom. Because we set up Lightroom to backup, I actually am going to choose the backups. Now we can back up to this drive, but I could also choose to back up to an external drive. I could set that as my default, so that if I ever lost my laptop, I would still have an external drive with my backup files and also a backup of my catalog. So I could choose that external drive by clicking on that button. If that external drive is never connected, then by default it will just back up to my catalog folder. Okay, so I'll click backup this time, and that catalog has closed. Okay, now let's come over to the MSATA drive that I have here. Let's say I've moved over to a new computer now, and we'll go through to the assignment 1 and my portraits, and we'll open this catalog with my friend or my lecturer to review the work that I've been doing at home. Now the lecturer might say, oh yes, I really like your images, they're nice and sharp, we've got good shallow depth of field, these are really quite lovely, but it was a color assignment. You need to drop this back to color. And so my lecturer might with me just change the treatment back to color. And they may also suggest that, have you tried putting a small vignette in this image? This image might benefit from a small amount of darkening in the corners, which will draw us into the beautiful face just offset on the right there. And they'll advise us that we can go into the effects panel, and we could choose a post-crop vignette here and just darken those corners quite subtly, just to create that subtle vignette in the image. The lecturer might also point out that we've got some sort of distracting thing, a little blob on the wall behind the portrait here, which we could quickly remove just by using this little tool up here. It's the spot removal tool, and I could just come in and just click on that spot, and hey presto, it's gone from view. And they'll say, okay, now we've got the 3 images. These 3 images are ready for submission. Okay, so let's close this catalog. Okay, so again we'll just quit Lightroom, Okay, now we've brought our drive back to our home computer, and we want to update the changes to our master catalog, and we don't want to forget what the lecturer was doing with us or our friend was doing with us. So we're going to open up our original catalog here. Now, because we've been working with two catalogs now, I'm going to hold down the Alt Option key when I click on Lightroom, and you'll see that there's my portraits catalog, but I'm going to go back to my master 2015 catalog here and open that. Now you'll see Lightroom is no slouch, especially if we're working with a fast processor like an i7 processor, and we have an SSD drive, and we've also got an I/O or in-out using USB 3 connections. Lightroom will work really quite quickly. Let's just go back into grid view here. Okay, now we're going to import the changes because when we were out working with this these images previously, we actually converted this back to color. So let's import the catalog that we've just been using, the portraits catalog. Again, we'll hold down the Option or Alt key. We'll hit Import Catalog. We'll choose the assignment one, Portraits Catalog, and we'll hit Choose. Okay. Now in the options here, we have the option here checked, Preserve all settings as a virtual copy, and we're bringing in all folders. Okay, so I'll just hit Import there. Okay, now we'll see that Lightroom has picked up that one of the images that we had on the master catalog has been changed again. And if we come down to either our folders or even our collection, we'll now see that we have this little virtual copy. This was the image with the older settings, and it's referring back to the original master file. So we only have one master file, but we have two interpretations of that file, the one that we did with our friend or our lecturer, and the one that we did previously. Now at any time, if we don't want that virtual copy, we can always just hit the delete. Okay, if you've got an image in a collection that you don't want to be using, we can also just hit the delete key on that as well. Now it won't delete the actual file, it'll just delete it from the collection. If you are trying to delete a file from a folder, you will be given a warning. Okay, you can remove that file from the catalog, but you could also go and delete it from the disk. Okay, in this instance I'll just hit the cancel there. So quite quickly we can see that we can create breakout catalogs which are quite portable. They're very small, they don't have to hold the master files, just those smart previews. Just to give you an idea of the flexibility of these smart previews, let's just go and do something really quite naughty here. We'll just go and click on this folder, right click and just do show in Finder, and I'm going to hide this folder from the catalog here. So we'll just take this folder and just pull it out of where it should be living. Okay, and let's just hide that. Now when we come and look for that folder, we're going to get this little question mark appearing here. Okay, that question mark saying is Lightroom has lost the whereabouts of that folder. So let's just go back. Now you can right click on this folder and choose Find Missing Folder, and you can browse to that. Now obviously it's going to be in my pictures, my 2015, and here's that missing catalog which I hid from Lightroom. As I said, try and get out of the habit of using your operating system for managing your images. Try and do everything you need to do inside of Lightroom, and you'll never lose image folders or files again. So we'll just hit choose because I found that folder. You'll see that folder is no longer in the portraits folder, so I'd now need to drag it back into the portraits. Okay. Okay, let's take one of these images back into that develop module again. I'm looking at this image, and maybe I want to work on this image a little bit more. Now remember, we can hit the develop module or just press the D key in order to go into the develop module. Now we have the panel on the left hand side. If we don't need to use that panel, then you can just press the F7 key, or you can just hit this little arrow here to maximize the working area inside of here. Now this is one of the images that I hadn't previously edited. If we have a look at the basic panel, there's been no adjustments to this image, and I know that I brightened one of the other images, and now I don't have to go back to the library module to find that image that I've already worked on. We have a panel at the bottom called the film strip. That's F6, or we can hit this little arrow at the bottom here, and we can see this is the image that we rendered brighter. As you can see, we're using that full dynamic range of the histogram here. Now because they're all photographed in the same environment, what I could do is I could just with this one selected, select them all in the film strip there, and then just hit sync. Okay, now you can just check all if you want all of the adjustments to go and flow through all of the images, and then we hit synchronize. So very quickly you can see those exposure adjustment that we made to this image are now rolled on to this first image as well. Okay, so the film strip is a handy way where we can access other images inside of the folder without having to go back into that grid or view inside of library. Okay, with those changes synchronized across those images, I'm just going to press the G key, which will take me back into grid view and into library module. If I no longer need to see the film strip, then again I can just press the F6 key to maximize my screen real estate here. Now let's say we want to export these images not as a catalog, but actually as individual files that we may want to share. Okay, so let's take another look at another sharing option to finish this video off, and that is the export option here. So we'll select all 5 images again. We can shift click to select a range of images, or just select some of our favorites. Perhaps we want to exclude the one of the Abhijit filming me shooting in the background there, and just export these 4 images. Okay, so we're going to go to the export, not export as catalog, but this time just export. Okay, and this will bring up the export dialog here. Now we need to create a preset in order to export the right file size. Now there are some presets that Lightroom gives us, like for instance we have for email hard drive, which is a good starting place here. Okay, I would probably adapt this one here. Okay, now we're going to use the export location as we'll choose a folder. As it says, this is a useful preset, a useful choice for presets. We're going to choose, we can choose to rename our files. I'm going to keep the original file name here. These are not videos, so I won't go into there. Image format will be JPEG. Color space, nice and safe, sRGB. I want it to be a much higher quality. Maybe I'll type in 90 there to get a much higher quality. And what I want the longest dimension to be is maybe let's just choose the long edge. We could choose 2048 as my long dimension. Alternatively, we could actually choose width and height settings. Maybe these are going to be viewed on a HD TV, and we'll choose 1920 by 1080. It won't change the shape of the images, it'll just make sure that we're getting the optimum size to fit on this screen here. We do have the option to do a little bit of output sharpening for screen or for print, matte or glossy paper there. Okay, so those are the options that I'm going to create a new preset for, and I'm going to click on the Add button here. Now, if these are the optimum settings for HDTV, I might just go HDTV, and we can push those into the user presets, or I could actually create a new folder to put those in, and I'll just put TV and hit create. And this means that every time we come back, we don't have to dial in or think about all of these settings every time we come to export images. We can just click on our favorite preset and then hit export. Okay, now we did ask Lightroom to nominate a folder, so I could choose my desktop and choose new folder and write in Tegan and hit create, and then open, and those 4 files are being exported into that folder. Okay, and I can then share those however way I like. I can put them onto external drives or upload them to other social media groups without using the services inside of Lightroom. And because they're not the master files, they're copies of or versions of those master files, then Lightroom will have no problem with me now operating inside and using the operating system to work with those individual files. Okay, I'm just going to add 2 more files to this catalog to conclude this video and wrap up some of the points we've been covering here. So again, we're inside the library folder. We're going to hit import, and we'll come back to my final folder that I wanted to import images. These are actually Photoshop document files. I actually don't want to copy them as DNGs because they're actually layered files, and in this case I don't even want to collate them with my the files coming from the camera. In this instance I'll just add them to my catalog. This will leave them where they are and just add them in situ. Okay, let's take a look at the file handling here. Again, there's no problem with having smart previews. I'm not going to back them up this time. Okay, now it'll also, if we're choosing to add, it'll use the original file name, so there'll be no file renaming during this process. So I'm just going to import these 2 files. We'll see that if we look at the parent folder of these 2 files, show parent folder, we've got that folder that is sitting in my pictures folder. That's not actually collated with these images, okay, but that's okay in this instance. Okay, so let's just double click and look at some of the important things we've been covering in order to manage an effective catalog. I call it the import ABC. Okay, no matter how keen you are to see your images quickly, just remember to add keywords. In the long run this will pay off in spades, because we'll be able to quickly locate our images just with a few simple words. We'll be able to find those images in our catalog. Back up your files and the catalog, preferably to an external drive. Okay, and that will make sure that if you ever lose your main computer, we'll still have copies of all of those files. Okay, I am promoting in this particular workflow that you collate your assets into a single drive, and the reason why this is important is if you come to archive this catalog onto an external drive, because maybe next year you'll start a new catalog, it's very easy just to simply drag a single folder onto another drive rather than trying to relocate all of those assets and collate them. Just to give you an example of this, if I right click on this folder that we have here, our master folder for this catalog, if I right click and hit show in Finder, you'll see I can quickly drag this folder with all of the assets that we've been keeping and the backups, and I can simply locate an external drive that I have connected, and with one simple drag I can archive that entire catalog onto a separate drive. And that makes this little workflow, it's not the only workflow by any measure, but it is a very effective workflow for working with your images simply and being able to back up that system. Okay, so let's just have a look at those two PSTs. The second one I've got is called the law of the library. Never delete, move, open or rename images using your computer's operating system. And I would also extend that if you have been using Adobe Bridge with Photoshop, that you also stop using Adobe Bridge to open or manage or rename or keyword those files. Otherwise you'll end up with what's called metadata conflicts, i.e. you have one file with two differing sets of metadata information, and Lightroom and Bridge will constantly want to know which one it should be referring to. And so I would actually go cold turkey on Adobe Bridge if you decide to use Lightroom as your main system for organizing, editing and sharing your images. Okay, so that concludes our library overview and the way we can create and manage our catalogs.